Archangel Michael is trying to speak to you right now. It's an emergency. You have only 2 minutes. You've seen him. Not always with your eyes, but in the hush of corners, in the flicker where no light should bend, he stood. You passed him in dreams you forgot by morning, in the space between waking and waking again, where memory frays and refuses to be stitched. You named him stranger to keep your soul safe, but he was never unfamiliar. The shadow was patient. The presence knew how to wait, and wait he did, long before you noticed the room growing colder when you entered it, long before your joy began to rot in your chest like fruit too sweet to last. He stood in the room the day you were born. Silent. Arms folded behind his back. He waited while the doctors cried victory and your mother whispered love into your wet ear. He didn't blink. You couldn't see him then, but your bones did. Your bones remembered something older than you, older than her, older than the moment light touched your face. The stranger leaned in, not with affection, but with intent. You have carried that breath inside you ever since, mistaking it for your own. Archangel Michael says, this presence is no man. This is no guardian. This is the silence that sharpened itself on grief and wore your bloodline like a disguise. It survived your ancestors' prayers. It dined at their tables. It watched as fathers failed and mothers wept and promises cracked under the weight of invisible contracts written before time rippled into language. It is not bound by your logic. It does not answer to your gods of convenience. It began by whispering lies that sounded like comfort. You thought the voice was yours, the voice that told you not to trust, to harden, to turn inward until your heart became a vault. It murmured that love was dangerous, that surrender would break you, that tenderness was weakness. You listened, and the room inside you, meant to house wind and light and thunder, became tight, small, and dim. You called it survival. But survival was never the goal. Ownership was. The stranger stepped through thresholds you forgot to guard. He moved through your relationships, weaving suspicion, feeding bitterness, delighting in division. When you saw friends turn to stone and lovers turn to ash, you blamed them, blamed yourself, but never noticed the one watching, feeding, smiling. It wore your disappointment like perfume. You could not detect the source, only the decay. That was the design. This thing grew more real the less you noticed it. More powerful the more you denied it. It thrives in the blind spot. Archangel Michael says, the time for blindness is over. This stranger carries names older than grief, etched in languages your soul flinched from in the womb. It has survived fire and flood, plague and silence, exile and glory. It is the debt never paid, the blood oath never broken. It follows family lines like a shadow of choice, waiting for the ripe soul to bend. It has bent you. Not fully. Not beyond reach. But it waits, still. It presses closer when you sleep. It breathes near your neck when you laugh too loud. It aches when you move toward light. And still, it smiles. You've walked in circles, trying to outrun a curse you couldn't name. You felt the weight, didn't you? Like chains made of wind. Like a clock ticking just out of reach. There were moments, the deaths that made no sense, the doors that would not open, the prayers that fell back like glass. You cried out, and silence answered. But it wasn't heaven that was silent. It was this thing that stood between you and heaven, its back pressed against the gate, its mouth pressed over yours. God says, this is not punishment. This is the unveiling. The world has tilted. What was hidden now breaks the surface. Old covenants, unholy and binding, shiver beneath your skin. Your ancestors' choices reached through blood and memory to claim what was promised. But you are not your ancestors. You were born under a different star. You carry a spark meant to burn through this darkness. That is why it fears you. That is why it hasn't struck yet. It's waiting for your agreement. The stranger does not act without permission. Not spoken. Not written. But lived. Every compromise. Every secret hate. Every denial of who you are. These are signatures in invisible ink. But the pages have aged. The contract begins to show. And now, even your silence is a type of yes. Archangel Michael says, break the agreement. Even if you never meant to sign it. Even if you inherited it. Break it with fire, with cry, with no. Break it by choosing light again and again until your spine remembers how to stand unbent. The stranger cannot follow where you are meant to go. But first, you must recognize him. You must call him what he is. No more stranger. No more guest. This is an enemy in the guise of patience. This is famine wearing the smile of a friend. This is betrayal cloaked in loyalty. It has waited long enough. You think you are alone in this battle. But every time you woke up with dread and stood anyway, angels marked your courage. Every time you broke the pattern even slightly, heaven leaned closer. You have not failed. You have not missed your moment. You have simply arrived at the one that matters most. The stranger has been standing in your hallway for years. But now, the door is opening. Now, the wind changes direction. And now, you will see what stands behind the mask. God says, enough pretending. Enough delay. You are not weak. You are not forgotten. You are not property. You are the storm that undoes the curse. You are the voice that breaks the contract. You are the fire the stranger never expected. It began before you knew how to speak, before you could name the heaviness pressing against your chest while the walls hummed secrets you were never meant to understand. Something in your home was wrong. Not broken, but bent with purpose, with a twisted intention that laced itself through air vents and floorboards and lullabies. You thought it was just tension. You thought it was just a feeling. But the silence in the corners knew what it had seen, and it waited for you to wake up to it. The betrayal wasn't loud. It came with smiles. With handshakes and well-meaning advice. With voices that claimed to love you but fed you doubt in teaspoons. You were fed fear instead of legacy, silence instead of answers. The betrayal looked like loyalty. It wore familiar faces and sat at your table. It spoke your name softly while hiding a dagger behind its back, not to kill, but to own. There are names in your mouth that never belong to you. There are echoes in your blood that whisper obedience when you try to roar. Archangel Michael says, your house has been marked. Not by accident. Not by fate. But by someone, long ago, who made a pact for survival, power, protection. And in doing so, they traded something sacred. They traded you. Not you as you were, but you as you could be. The version of you who walks unshackled, who remembers heaven's breath. That version was buried before you had the chance to know it. Buried beneath inheritance, beneath expectation, beneath guilt. You've always felt it. The subtle twist in the air. The pressure that pushes back when you try to rise. Every time you've neared freedom, something collapses. An unexpected death. A betrayal from someone close. A sudden fear that stops you from speaking truth. These are not coincidences. They are triggers. Warnings. The house you live in, or the one that lives in you, is built on ground that remembers too much. God says, the ground speaks. And it is speaking now. There was a room, yes, that room, you never liked. Maybe it was a basement, a hallway, an attic. Maybe it was the corner of your childhood bedroom where the shadows held shape. That place was not just uncomfortable. It was chosen. Marked. A gate opened once. A door that should never have been touched. Someone said words there, ritual or rage, doesn't matter. The wound opened. And though time passed, the wound never closed. It only waited. It only deepened. They will tell you you're imagining things. That memories can't rot walls. That emotions don't linger like mold. But you know better. You felt the shift when certain topics are spoken aloud. You've seen the way arguments erupt out of nowhere in certain rooms. You've watched electronics flicker, pets grow restless, plants wilt. These are symptoms. Not madness. Not drama. Manifestations. The betrayal isn't just emotional, it's spiritual. It's structural. It lives in the infrastructure of your dwelling. There is a name bound beneath the house. Not yours. A name someone called in a time of desperation, in a time of bargaining. They offered what they did not understand. Blood. Innocence. Future. They thought they were saving the family. They thought they were protecting what mattered. But they didn't read the price. Or maybe they did, and hoped you'd pay it quietly. Archangel Michael says, no more silence. You felt the compulsion, haven't you? To repeat patterns you despise. To echo pain instead of interrupting it. You've watched yourself become what you swore you never would, hard, cold, distant, apologetic for your very breath. That is not you. That is the pact vibrating beneath your ribs. That is the inheritance fighting for control. You are not weak for struggling. You are not broken for feeling lost. You are standing in a house that was cursed to collapse and still, you rise. This is why the betrayal hurts so much. Because it came wearing the face of love. Because it shaped you before you had the strength to reject it. Because it taught you to doubt yourself before you ever truly lived. But the curse made one mistake. It underestimated your fire. It didn't account for the arrival of this moment, the moment when your clarity becomes a weapon. When your refusal becomes a prayer. When your body, trembling, stands anyway. God says, I have not abandoned this house. I have not forsaken these walls. The spirits that were bound here tremble now. They feel the change in you. They know what comes when someone remembers who they are. That is why the nightmares increase. That is why old fears rise. Because the dark knows its grip is slipping. And the betrayal, once buried, now writhes to hold its place. But your vision has sharpened. You now see where the rot begins. And you now know, you do not have to keep what was never yours. Archangel Michael says, the house will shake. There will be upheaval. There will be conflict. Those who benefited from the silence may try to silence you again. They will use guilt, history, obligation. But understand this, honoring the past does not mean dragging its chains into your future. You are not here to preserve the curse. You are here to dismantle it. To burn it from the root with light that cannot be quenched. Begin where it trembles most. Stand in that place. Speak aloud. Speak against. Speak the name you were given by heaven, not the one shaped by fear. Let the betrayal hear you. Let the walls remember. Let the ground cry out. And do not stop until the echo breaks. You are the reckoning your ancestors prayed for, but could not bear to become. You are the one who ends it. The hour just before dawn, when the sky forgets how to breathe, that's when it begins. Not a dream, no. Not this time. This is the tearing. This is the veil snapping open like paper burned from the inside. You are pulled out of rest not by noise, but by presence. Something in the room moves that shouldn't move. Something watches that shouldn't exist in waking. And your soul, your real soul, sits up before your body ever stirs. You feel it in your teeth first, an electric pressure curling up from the jaw to the crown. Your breath leaves in one long surrender, and the air grows too thick to swallow. Around you, the night grows sharp. Not darker, but clearer. As if the dark itself were removed, and what remains is the raw structure of the world, bones of light and shadow, breathing like a lung outside of time. This is the hour the stranger fears. Because this is the hour heaven rips through your sleep. You are not dreaming. There is no dream. Only revelation. And it starts with a sound not made for ears, a sound older than thunder and softer than weeping. A choir that doesn't sing, it declares. And what it declares, you already know, though you have never heard it before, you are being summoned. Archangel Michael says, it is time. The bed trembles, not because of movement, but because of alignment. As though the ground below has tilted into a truth that shakes everything not anchored in God. The ceiling peels away. Your room becomes a mouth, swallowing dimensions. There is no floor. No roof. No safe edge. Only an opening, a corridor carved in flame and wind and command. You are not falling. You are being lifted, not by hands, but by will. By authority. You are wanted. Not as property. As witness. God says, you must see what you were never supposed to. Suddenly you are standing, but not standing. The world has no orientation here. Still, you stand. The fabric of sleep melts, revealing a battlefield not made of blood or bodies, but of choices, oaths, and echoes. Forces move around you, not angels in white robes, but beings wrapped in storm and silence. Their eyes are not eyes. They are judgments made flesh, verdicts made wind. You do not look at them. They look into you. They weigh. They measure. They know. The one in front of you, taller than time, his wings ragged with war, does not speak with sound. He speaks with knowing. His blade is not drawn. His flame is not raised. But his presence slices you in two. Everything false peels away. Every excuse. Every delay. Every fear. All burned clean. Archangel Michael says, your delay has cost others their freedom. And you know it's true. Not as guilt, but as fire. You feel the faces of those you failed to love boldly. Those you abandoned in silence. Those you allowed to suffer because you feared rejection. The ones who watched you dim your light to blend in. You never meant to harm. But harm was done. The stranger used your hesitation as a weapon. Your spiritual apathy became a doorway. Now the door is being closed, violently. This is not punishment. This is confrontation. The angel lifts something, what was once yours, long ago, before the pact, before the shame. It burns like sunlight soaked in memory. And as it draws near, the part of you that still clings to unworthiness screams. Not aloud. Not with lips. But with belief. The belief that you are too far gone. Too damaged. Too complicit. But the fire ignores it. Fire doesn't need permission to cleanse. Fire doesn't consult guilt before it frees. God says, I have not chosen you for your perfection. I have chosen you because you are unfinished. Your chest splits, not in pain, but in release. Like a shell cracking. Like a tomb giving up its secret. From within, light pours. Not just any light, your light. The one the stranger buried. The one you let dim. And as it spills out, the angels withdraw, not in fear, but in reverence. For what they see is not just a soul awakening. It is a threat to everything built on lies. Your true self is a weapon. A beacon. A gate. And so the struggle begins, not outside, but inside. The part of you still entangled with the curse begins to thrash. Old fears howl. Guilt tries to take shape. Shame wraps itself in your memories. You fall. Not through space, but through resistance. Every lie you ever believed becomes a hook. Every trauma, a chain. The descent is not punishment. It is process. A reckoning between two selves, the one shaped by darkness, and the one forged in divine light. You land in a room made of mirrors. Each one shows a version of you, the angry one, the afraid one, the one who numbed, the one who betrayed. They call to you. They plead for recognition. But you cannot love what refuses to release the lie. You walk past them, bleeding light, until you reach the final mirror. And there it stands. Not you. It. The stranger. Its smile is hollow now. No patience. No mask. Just hunger. It shifts to look like you. It mimics your pain. It speaks in voices you trust. But it can no longer hide. Because heaven has ripped through your sleep, and truth cannot be reburied. You see it for what it is, the distortion of your divine design. Archangel Michael says, "Cut the cord." And in your hand appears a sword, not forged in metal, but in memory, in mercy, in the names heaven still calls you when you forget who you are. You lift it. It burns. The stranger shrieks, not in pain, but in exposure. You swing, and the illusion shatters. Silence. Not peace. Judgment. Because now, you know. Now, you've seen. And now, you are accountable. God says, "I did not awaken you to ease. I awakened you to war." The veil closes. You are back. In your bed. But nothing is the same. The war has come home. The battlefield is your voice, your choice, your body. Your light. You've seen heaven. And now the earth will tremble with what you carry. You wake, but the war doesn't stop. Your feet touch the floor, and already something coils beneath the surface of your day. It wears your habits. It follows your breath. But it is not you. The stranger is weaker now, yes, but not gone. It has fled from heaven's fire into the deepest corners of your reflexes. Now it speaks in self-doubt, hesitation, and the old ache behind your smile. The shadow is still there. Not passive. Not dormant. It has weaponized your own shape against you. The betrayal has evolved. It no longer needs the house, the room, the curse. It hides in your smallest decisions, thrives in the seconds before you speak your truth. It whispers before every risk. Before every dream. It's in the heaviness when you try to pray. In the sudden fatigue when you sit down to rise. It is the fog in your mind when you try to remember what God already told you. And worse, it uses your own voice to accuse you. God says, "Do not confuse your thoughts with my silence." This is the tactic now, confusion. Delay. Looping. It cannot possess you, so it tries to replicate you. Every spiritual gift has a shadow mimic. Discernment becomes paranoia. Passion becomes self-destruction. Obedience becomes people-pleasing. Even your empathy, once divine, has been corrupted, weaponized to keep you bound to those who drain you, praise you just enough to keep you quiet. You were told this was love. You were taught that sacrifice meant losing yourself entirely. But that was not God. That was the curse whispering through mouths you trusted. Archangel Michael says, do not pity the parasite. You've fed it long enough. Through apology. Through delay. Through pretending you didn't see what you saw, didn't hear what ripped through your sleep. The parasite, the shadow, you call it anxiety, you call it shame, but it's the stranger, fractured and furious, desperate to reattach itself before you burn too brightly. It cannot survive the full emergence of your true self. So it fights like a trapped animal, using your own memories as knives. But now you see the pattern. Now you feel the difference between your own heartache and foreign invasion. That heaviness when you try to step into purpose, it's not fear. It's resistance. From something that once ruled you and now claws to remain relevant. Your healing is not linear because the shadow adapts. The stranger mutates. It watches what comforts you and tries to poison it. It turns relationships toxic. It wraps divine timing in illusion. But it is not sovereign. It is not eternal. Its power only lasts as long as your agreement. God says, revoke the agreement. You remember the moment. Even if you don't remember the details. That moment of collapse, maybe you were 7, maybe 17, when you said within yourself, I'll do anything just to survive this. That was the crack. The stranger didn't need a full possession. It needed permission. A survival vow. A self-betrayal. A silence. And it got it. That vow buried the original blueprint of your identity under layers of performance and control. But no more. The vow is breaking. That's why you're in pain. Not all pain is destruction. Some pain is a severing. You are being cut free. But the severing makes you question everything. You don't know who you are without the shadow's voice in your head. You don't know what it feels like to act without guilt. That's the final weapon, disorientation. You wonder if this new path is real, if the light is trustworthy. You grieve even the false comforts. But grief is not regression. It is the toll at the border of rebirth. Archangel Michael says, keep walking. Do not turn back to bury the dead. This new version of you, the one flickering through, it feels unstable because it is sacred. It is still forming. Still waking. You are between names. Between worlds. Between alignments. That is where the shadow strikes hardest. You are spiritually raw. Every attack feels sharper. But that is not because you are weak. It is because your senses have returned. You are feeling clearly again. And now, every misalignment screams where once it whispered. God says, clarity is mercy, even when it hurts. Look around you. The room is different. The air knows you've changed. Certain people avoid you now, don't they? Certain patterns crumble no matter how much you try to revive them. That's not coincidence. That's displacement. The stranger cannot hold what is being saturated in light. And so it flees, but it does not go quietly. It tries to drag the memory of itself back into your daily rhythm. It speaks in guilt. It wraps itself in nostalgia. But remember, not everything familiar is holy. Not everything painful is your cross to carry. You are not cursed. You are cutting the curse down. And so you must choose. Every day. Every moment. To lean toward what feels like truth even when it scares you. To reject the voice that begs you to play small, to explain, to delay. That voice is not yours. Your voice is fire. Your voice breaks chains. That's why they told you to be quiet. That's why they told you to tone it down, to soften your edges. But heaven did not send you here to be palatable. Heaven sent you to disrupt. This next phase won't be clean. You'll stumble. You'll hear echoes of old shame. But stumble forward. Let the light trip you. Let it expose what must be removed. Let it hurt if it must. Because what follows the pain is authority. Archangel Michael says, you will not fight this battle as a victim. The shadow wanted you dependent. Powerless. Apologetic. But now you stand in the wreckage, blade in hand, trembling but sovereign. And that trembling? That is the frequency of awakening. That is heaven matching your heartbeat. You are not who you were. You are who you were always becoming. Let the shadow starve. Let the stranger vanish nameless. Let your light eat the room.